Did you know that 47% of today's CFOs have FP&A experience? Now, 10 years ago, that number was much, much lower. So, if you are working in FP&A right now, you were already in one of the strongest pipelines to the CFO role, unless you fall for these four career killing myths that keep most professionals stuck. In this video, I'll show you what those myths are and the exact behaviors that actually get you noticed for CFO roles. And you'll also see how to turn your FP&A skills into the kind of strategic leadership that every company needs. But first, let's talk about what most FP&A professionals believe and why that belief is wrong. The biggest barriers for FP&A professionals aren't the lack of talent or opportunity. They are the limiting mindset that people keep believing. These are the four misconceptions that can stall careers and limit your path to CFO. So let's break them down one by one. The first myth is that you need an accounting background or a chartered accountant qualification to move up. That made sense when majority of the CFOs came from accounting, audit, controllership, but the trends have shifted. Deloitte reported that 47% of today's CFOs have FA on their resumes, a much larger share than in the past decades. Finance leaders like Anne Gugino, who moved from Target's FP&A team to Papa John's CFO, and Kate Booker, who rose from corporate FP&A to HubSpot CFO, prove it's no longer about sticking to the old routine. Modern CFOs must still ensure accuracy, of course, but the real differentiator is strategic thinking, while technical precision remains the basic requirement. The second myth is that FP&A only builds budget. That's not true at all. For example, at HubSpot, model customer lifetime value to steer product and marketing investments. At Amazon, FP&A teams play a central role in planning global expansion and shaping pricing models. These responsibilities go well beyond cost tracking. They are examples of how financial planning drives business strategy at its core. Now, this type of work looks identical to commercial decisions boards now expect CFOs to lead. Third, many people believe that you need to rotate through every finance function to be qualified for a CFO role. Again, not completely true. Kate Booker did not spend years in audit or treasury to land her CFO role. She built credibility by using FP&A insights to influence companies' direction. Specialization in forecasting, analysis, and strategic partnering often proves to be more valuable than checking every traditional box with a shallow experience. Finally, the MBA myth that CFO roles demand a top tier MBA degree. Advanced degrees can definitely help, but the weight often lies in decision making under pressure. For example, Jason Child showed this honest path from Amazon's FP&A organization to a CFO seat at Splunk, where his leadership in complex global projects demonstrated judgment that outshined credentials. Now, these myths still exist because finance once rewarded technical guardianship, but the times have changed. Today, CFOs must be forward looking, and FP&A experience directly aligns with that shift. So, if those myths aren't true, then what makes FP&A a better career path? Let's look at why FP&A role prepares you for exactly what modern CFOs are being asked to deliver. What makes FP&A such a strong launchpad for CFO role is how closely the work already mirrors what modern finance leaders are expected to deliver. Boards no longer want CFOs who simply safeguard reporting. They want business partners who use analysis to shape the company's future. That aligns directly with the core of FP&A. FP&A is forward looking by design. While accounting focuses on recording and compliance, FP&A teams build models, forecasts, and scenarios that informs the biggest business choices. For example, at Amazon, long range planning directly influenced multi-billion dollar investments, and Jason Child carried that experience with him from FP&A into the CFO seat at Splunk. His story reflects how analytical decision making in planning translates straight into board level strategy. Collaboration is another area where FP&A professionals gain a head start. Instead of operating in narrow silos, these teams work constantly with sales, marketing, operations, and product development. For example, at HubSpot, FP&A joint engineering roadmap discussions to analyze how new features would influence revenue growth. This kind of cross functional visibility builds the same business fluency and influence that define successful successful CFOs. Research confirms how dramatically the CFO role has been reshaped. Analyst studies show CFOs now spend a smaller share of time on accounting oversight and much more on capital allocation, digital transformation, and guiding business strategy. When Rana Zia moved from FP&A at Banana Republic to her new role as CFO at Dressbarn, she explained that her experience in planning gave her the tools to weigh in questions like store expansion and e-commerce investment decisions that defined the company's growth path. This makes the skill gap between the FP&A and the modern CFO far narrower than most professionals assume. Planning already develops three essential capabilities: interpreting data trends, translating insights into business actions, and advising executives on risk and reward. The remaining gaps are not about technical finance knowledge, but about leadership, visibility, and influence. If you want the C suite, FP&A puts you right where strategic decisions are made, but you still need to build the leadership traits that boards are hiring for. So how do you systematically close those gaps and accelerate your path upward? The answer lies in a practical framework that breaks down the exact areas you need to strengthen next. To help you position yourself for the CFO role, here is a clear playbook you can start using today. I call it the SCALE framework. S stands for strategic visibility, C stands for cross functional collaboration, A stands for accounting foundations, L stands for leadership, and finally E stands for executive presence. These five areas capture the skills and behaviors that set future CFOs apart, and each comes with specific set of actions you can begin practicing right now. First, let's start with strategic visibility. Strategic visibility is about moving beyond presenting the numbers. Don't just report variances. Recommend an action tied to the business impact. For example, instead of saying expenses are over budget, say something like, based on this trend, shifting spend could improve ROI by 5%. Success here looks like executives discussing the action on your recommendations and not just consuming your reports. Next is cross functional collaboration, which builds the influence every CFO needs. At organizations like Microsoft, FP&A staff rotate into product groups to understand different models. Even if your company doesn't formalize this, ask to sit on the sales or marketing meetings and contribute by testing their assumptions in your plans. A clear win here is when colleagues invite you back, not to just share numbers, but to help shape decisions. Next, let's talk about A, which is accounting foundation. Accounting foundation doesn't require you to become a CA or a CPA. What matters is working understanding of how three financial statements connect with each other. Many finance leaders call this the finance passport. Exposure to work in areas like controllership or treasury signals that you can speak the broader finance language. Success means that you can anticipate accounting implications of your forecast and answer those questions with confidence. Next is leadership. Leadership starts well before you start managing people. You can mentor junior analysts, lead an internal training, or volunteer for a high visibility task like supporting the earnings call prep. These small moves demonstrate initiative and impact across the organization. The signal you have succeeded is when peers and managers start seeing you as someone who grows others and not just someone who delivers your own work. That brings me to the final piece in the scale framework, which is executive presence. Executive presence distinguishes analysts from executives. That means explaining complex analysis clearly to non finance leaders. Watch how CFOs present to senior team members. They emphasize the so what over the how. A practical approach is to rehearse your presentations with leaders from outside finance and refine until your message resonates with them. Progress will show when business leader will start seeking you out for clarity on strategic questions. Pick one element from the scale framework and practice it this week. For example, add a single recommendation to your next report. Over time, these steps stack into a career narrative which makes you CFO ready. Now that you've seen the skill framework, the question becomes, how do you sequence these skills in a structured way to avoid stalling mid career? Here is a simple three-step roadmap you can put into practice right away. First, master the numbers. Second, build business fluency. And third, develop leadership through storytelling. These steps shift you from being seen as a capable analyst to being recognized as an emerging CFO or a leader. Master the numbers means going deeper than the routine forecasting. Don't just deliver one outcome. Lay out three distinct scenarios and what each one means for the business. At Procter and Gamble, analysts are often trained to present decision-ready reporting. Senior executives can compare the trade-offs immediately. To practice this yourself, start by preparing three scenarios on your next forecast and frame each in terms of the business impact. This habit shows that you're thinking like a decision maker and not just a report generator. Next, build business fluency by stepping outside finance and spending focused time with each and other departments of your organization. Aim for 1 hour each week with a department leader, listening to their goals and challenges. One FP&A manager I know credited her own promotion to shadowing sales call, which gave her sharper insights into revenue drivers. If you can rotate through functions like sales, marketing, product, or supply chain, even better. But consistency here matters the most. Over time, these cross-functional perspectives helps you speak the operational language that CFOs need to unite the business teams. Next, let's talk about developing leadership through storytelling because how you frame insights matters as much as the analysis itself. Instead of walking through variance reports, practice giving a 5-minute elevator style briefing centered on one or two KPIs. For example, marketing spend rose 8%, but here is how that links to pipeline health and why reallocating could raise returns. For example, at Stripe, FP&A shifted to including so what summaries in their reports, and that immediately gained them access to executive level discussions. This practice builds presence and positions you as someone who leads with clarity. Together, these three steps compound. Mastery of numbers establishes credibility. Business fluency builds influence, and storytelling ensures your ideas resonate at the highest level. If you do these consistently for 6 to 12 months, you will already have a track record that looks like a leadership experience. And this isn't just theory. Professionals who have walked this path have shown how powerful this can be. Their real stories prove FA isn't a sidetrack but a launchpad straight into the CFO seat. And you don't have to take my word for it. Real examples show how FP&A backgrounds have led directly to the CFO roles. These career paths illustrate how planning experience, when paired with strategic thinking, becomes the foundation boards are looking for in CFOs. You have now seen the scale framework, the playbook that transforms FP&A professionals into CFO ready leaders. But here is the catch, knowing the scale framework isn't enough. If you don't know how to apply it in the right sequence, you risk stalling mid career, even with strong finance skills. So, how do you structure your growth to avoid getting stuck? That is exactly what we will be covering in the second part of this video. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.